Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The second half of the year starts today, Tony. You making any halftime adjustments?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Less glad, more mad. Just like you lately. More mad.
Good.
Seems to work for you, right? I'm going to be mad all the time, too.
Follow suit. That's good.
Who made the
PTI,
best second half adjustments ever? Richie Pettibone. The best second half adjustments of any coach ever.
I was going to say Joe Gibbs. But that's the same thing. Gibbs.
Richie Pettibone on defense.
Pettibone.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, huge upsets at Wimbledon, 2 unusual home runs for Wilyer Abreu, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with a couple of huge moves by the Milwaukee Bucks, and neither of them contains Giannis Antetokounmpo directly. The Bucks waived their star acquisition from a couple of years ago, Damian Lillard, who likely is not going to play this coming season anyway because of a torn Achilles. With the money they saved by ditching Lillard, the Bucks then signed 6'11" Miles Turner away from the Indiana Pacers. Wilbon, what does this do for the Bucks, and where does it leave the Pacers?
Man, I'm going to start with the Pacers since they just played for the championship. Wow. I mean, losing Turner like this to a division rival. I mean, this hurts, Tony. And they're like the Celtics now, in that their best player is out for maybe the whole season, or certainly most of it. And then they lose a big part. Maybe you could argue their second best player or their second most important player. So the Pacers have to, I mean, next year, we don't know what the Pacers are going to be. We're going to skip a year with them. But let's go to Milwaukee, which is, going to catch most of the conversation. Chris Haynes, who's reporting for Turner and NBA TV and who talks to Giannis directly, is reporting today, like right now, that Giannis is less than thrilled about this. Now, we don't know if that means that specifically Giannis is less than thrilled about losing Dame Lillard, or he just doesn't think that this is enough to keep him in contention. He and LeBron are the players who are looking at this point in their lives, even though Giannis is, almost 10 years younger than LeBron, to still prime of their careers, or am I going to be close? Am I going to be playing for a team that's any good? Here's what Milwaukee's lost since Giannis won the championship in 21. Drew Holiday, gone. Brook Lopez, as of yesterday, gone. Chris Middleton, gone. And even DiVincenzo, gone. Pat Connaughton, who came off the bench, gone. So Giannis is there with Bobby Portis, but I don't know that that's going to contend with the Knicks and Cleveland and maybe Orlando. Yeah. So Giannis is maybe in a spot. He's got some time to figure it out, but it leaves him wondering.
All right, so I'm going to agree with you right down the line on Indiana. They now have 2 of their best 3 players from last year are not going to play with them this year. So they fall back into the pile. It's as simple as that. They fall back into the pile. I don't know about the Milwaukee deal. It would seem to me that the subtext here is that the Bucks either are or should be trying to do everything they can to make Giannis Antetokounmpo happy. I would assume that Miles Turner, if he thought Giannis was leaving, would not sign with that team. Why would he go to a lesser team than he just played with for the NBA championship? I will grant you that it's a stunner that they got rid of Damian Lillard. I certainly grant you that. And again, I would say, do you not think they ran this by Giannis Antetokounmpo? If they were supposed to be 1 and 2 on a championship-type team, don't they have to talk to Giannis about this? Now, look, I think that Lillard, he's going to keep all his money, but I do think he's basically been treated like a piece of meat, expensive meat, but a piece of meat. The 2 years that he was there were a total waste of time for him, a total waste of time. They had 2 first-round exits in the playoffs. Agreed. When he comes back, he's going to be 36 years old, and it's going to be a long way from stardom. So it's just, again, Mike, I've got to feel if they don't make every move with keeping Giannis in mind, then what are they doing?
Tony, you wonder. And that's why the Chris Haynes reporting is important to say that Giannis is less than thrilled, which doesn't mean he's unhappy. He might have time to digest it. Dame can, by the way, when he does come back, go play with somebody where there is stardom. Because he will get the $100+ million because the Bucks did that, which is that's a historic payout for a guy you're saying goodbye to who you thought was going to tag team with your star, Giannis, and get back to the championship round. And it didn't happen, didn't come close. Wow, man. And we're going to continue with some stunners, Tone. A rash of first-round stunners at Wimbledon today. French Open champ and second-seeded Coco Gauff lost in straights to Ukraine's Diana Yastremska. Third-seeded Jess Pegula out. On the men's side, third-seeded Alexander Zverev out. In fact, 12 of the 32 seeded men out already. Most ever. So what are you making of all this?
All right, so this just happened within the last couple of hours, so I'm going to consult my notes that I took every once in a while and look down on them. You like to use the words, Mike, overrated and overstated. You say it all the time. I think it's possible that could apply to Coco Gauff right now, who's still a young woman who has not hit the top, the apex of her career. I know she just won the French, and I know she won a U.S. Open, but Mike, you covered a lot of tennis. A first-round bounce, that doesn't happen to the greatest of the players out there. Not a first-round bounce at Wimbledon, the most important tournament, and everybody sort of understands that. The truly greats, at least look at Alcaraz the other day, pushed to 5, but he won it in 5. Pushed, but he won. You always tell me that people are being anointed as the next Tiger Woods. You said, hold on McIlroy. Hold on Spieth. You've said, hold on Scheffler. I think you're right about that. I'm wondering if people aren't looking to anoint the next Serena Williams, because she's the greatest American female tennis player that we've seen in a long time. And I don't know, is Coco Gauff right on that? Because God knows there's no next Pete Sampras with the American men. Nobody's talking about that. So I'm just getting to the fact, Mike, that as great as Coco Gauff might be, perhaps we are pushing too hard with Coco Gauff.
Tone, that's an interesting point. I had not thought of that. And probably fair, because when you look at age now, and she has won those two slams, it's like, okay, there's still some growth. And to be fair, she has some time to have that growth. What's the rush? But Tone, I'm going to go in a different way while not disagreeing with you. I think, and you mentioned golf, I think golf and tennis are similar this way. There are so many great players across the globe that you can just lose. You can find great players to pop up, even if they're not great. They're talented enough to force their way in and beat even the greats once. They may not be able to stay with them. It may not be sustainable for a year or 3 years or over a career. But there are just so many talented young people playing golf and tennis. I don't know. Maybe these things shouldn't be considered upset because the opponents, the peers, are so well trained, so well schooled, so well coached. And you're looking at these global sports. Maybe that's it. We got the U.S. Open coming after this. We can pay attention and see what's going to happen there too.
And often we haven't heard of the really young ones. Like the kid who won the golf the other day, Pot Geeter.
Good point.
Knew who
Great point. The kid in South Africa.
20-year-old kid won a PGA tournament. Let's go to baseball. Red Sox right fielder Wilyer Abreu became the first player since Roger Maris in 1958 to hit both a grand slam and an inside-the-park home run in the same game. The Red Sox won 13-6, by the way, which is a big deal in Boston because the Red Sox are under 500. Wilbon, which is the bigger deal here, the grand slam or the inside-the-park home run?
Well, the inside-the-park home run is the greater curiosity. And now you see so many grand slams. I remember growing up as a kid where people talked about, Gehrig, had a certain number of grand slams. I want to say 24, but that's probably wrong. But like if you had 6 or 7 grand slams, it was a big deal. Now there's it seems like everybody's got at least a dozen. So the inside the park home run is the curiosity. And it's because ballparks are pretty much symmetrical. Yeah, you got some places out there with a curious center field, like in Houston, where you had to go up a ramp for a few years and some weird stuff like that. But ballparks are now, you don't look at them and go, wow, there's no 440-foot center field like whatever it was. Was that Ebbets? You would know better than me. That had these huge polo grounds. Okay, you don't have that.
Yeah.
So if you get an inside the park home run, you got to have a ball in carom in a way that allows you to get around the bases, unless you're Carl Lewis. So I'm going to say the inside the park home run.
Okay, so a couple of numbers here to put this in perspective. In 2024, the most recently completed season, 131 Grand Slams. It's a lot of Grand Slams. 8 inside the park home runs. 8. So one is a lot more common than the other.
Yeah.
In the context of a baseball game, a Grand Slam is a bigger deal because it's 4 runs. But in the context of rarity, in the context of aesthetics, inside the park home runs are fabulous to watch. It's like this great race is going on. You got to track down the ball. You got to make at least 2 relays. Often you're going home with it while this guy is running around the bases. It's beat the clock. It's the most fun of all. And in a place like Fenway, which is an architectural, it's an asymmetrical place, as the ball rolls around in corners, it's just more fun. You're right. We agree on this. It's just more fun. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Coming up, what do the Nuggets moves in free agency say about their plan? We will ask Brian Windhorst.
We'll also ask him about the new extension that will end up earning Shai Gilgeous-Alexander more than $70 million a year. And by the way, Garrick had 23.
I got to tell you this, Mike.
23
I got
for
to tell you
Garrick.
this. Mr. Brian Windhorst. Brian, let's start with this. The Denver Nuggets traded Michael Porter Jr. to the Nets for Cam Johnson, and they also brought back Bruce Brown. What does this say to you about what the Denver Nuggets are trying to do?
They are addressing their depth problems after a couple years of really being too shallow and losing in 2 7-game series. They are finally taking it seriously. This trade, Cam Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. are comparable players. You could talk to 10 different executives. You could get 5 that like one, 5 that like the other. Cam is known as a little bit better of a defender, maybe a little slightly better ball handler. Porter is a little bit better shooter, a little bit more high. He has a little higher ceiling in terms of scoring. But the big thing was the reason that the Nuggets put a first-round pick in this deal is it shaved $34 million off of the Nuggets books the next 2 years. And so the question became, did they do this deal to save the $34 million, or did they do this deal to make room to add more players? And I wasn't sure which one it was going to be because the Kroenke family, the owners of the Nuggets, have made moves like this before to save money. Well, in the last 12, 14 hours, they've added 3 other players. You mentioned Bruce Brown from their 2023 championship team. They made a trade and took on $5 extra million for Jonas Valanciunas to truly get Jokic a backup. I don't want to overreact about a backup center, but he didn't have one. And then today they signed Tim Hardaway Jr., a shooter. So they are actively trying to help the depth, and that will be really helpful to go to Nikola Jokic with a contract extension offer, which they're going to this summer, saying, Nikola, look what we have done to help get you back up.
Wow. Well, we can't talk about anybody in the Western Conference very long, and we're going to stay there without getting to the Lakers and LeBron and opting in, Brian. Maybe not the big splash that other teams, foes in the West are making, but what do you make of LeBron opting in?
Well, it was his only reasonable choice. And I think reasonable is the important word there. Like, yes, he could have bypassed this option and gone and signed with Cleveland or whomever, but it's not reasonable to leave $53 million on the table. I don't care how much money he has. That's not a reasonable decision. And asking for a trade it's not impossible, and I guess it could still happen, but it's not really reasonable. He has a no trade clause, and it's very hard to make that work. I won't say that's impossible. I guess it could happen. So he made the reasonable decision, and then he did something that he's been doing almost like clockwork for years, which is apply pressure to the Lakers organization. The reason this is different is because he's now in the last year of his contract, which he has never been in his career. In 23 years, guys, he's never been in a situation where he's on the last year of his contract. It's a new experience. And so for the first time in 23 years, he is also not the franchise player where the team makes decisions all around him. So it is a new experience for him. He has got something he's trying to get accomplished. I'd be lying to you if I could tell you I knew exactly what he was doing. But I think the key is here, he wants to see the Lakers invest in this season. And if he feels that that's the case, I think he'll be fine. If it's not, I guess we should all stay tuned.
Well, Brian, if the Lakers don't, they could get knocked down a rung. We started with Denver and what they've done. How about San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston and the arms race they seem to be in? That's part of this whole context in the West. What do you make of what's happening in Texas?
What's so remarkable about what they're doing is that they're all young. They've built their teams through youth. Yes, Kevin Durant is in his 30s and they're going that way. Yes, Kyrie Irving is in his 30s, etc. But the Houston has built this through the draft. San Antonio has built this through the draft. They've got a shot to having 3 consecutive Rookies of the Year. And now the reason there's so much excitement in Dallas is because of the Cooper Flagg draft. And so the reason that Texas is so interesting is that they're not super teams that were constructed on the fly. They are teams that are being grown organically. Dallas may have fallen backwards into that by hitting the lottery with a 1.8% chance, but that's why this is exciting. And by the way, the team that just won the championship was built organically, and the Pacers, who've lost the championship, were largely built organically. This is the way forward, and I could see this being the beginning of a long rivalry between these teams.
We will get you out of here on this, Brian. You mentioned LeBron opting in for somewhere a little bit north of $50 million. I got a number here you're going to love. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has agreed to a 4-year Supermax extension that will end up paying him nearly, wait for it, $80 million in the final year. How high are these basketball salaries going at the top moving forward?
So I believe by the end of this decade, there will be a player who has $100 million on his contract. Not necessarily that he's earning it, but that he'll sign late in this decade, and by the end of his contract, it'll be $100 million. And the reason I can say that with a good assurance is that the media rights deal is for 11 years, and it's for $77 billion, and it's going to keep going up. The salary cap went up 10% last year. It's going to go up 10% this year. Next year, they're projecting 7%, and it could be 7 to 10% the year after that into the foreseeable future. And there's still only 15 guys on the team, still only 15 players. The media rights are going way up. There's the same number of players. So the $100 million number is coming. And I'll never forget this. When I entered the NBA, my first year covering the NBA, 2003, the max salary was $14 million. Today, the average salary is $14 million. The average salary is $14 million. And LeBron's been in the league for both times.
That's why I wish I was 7'8", but it didn't happen. Thank you, Brian.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs are somehow keeping their stars.
And a big-time catch in last night's Padres-Phillies game.
So they keep all their free agents, right? Florida does that. And they keep Kachuk and they keep Bobrovsky. Why aren't they going to win again exactly? Why don't they go for 3 in a row exactly? Happy time, people. Happy 64th birthday, Carl Lewis. If running and jumping are the hallmarks of being an athlete, Lewis may be the greatest athlete of all time. Lewis won 9 Olympic gold medals and 1 silver in running and jumping. He was on a couple of relay golds. He won 2 golds individually in the 100, 1 gold in the 200, and 4 straight Olympic golds in the long jump. The most famous race Lewis ever ran, he lost, the 100 in the 1988 Olympics. But the winner, Ben Johnson, was disqualified for using performance-enhancing drugs, and Lewis got the gold. Lewis is currently head track coach at the University of Houston, where he went to college.
Lewis also would have been in the 1980 Olympics, which had a boycott. I mean, look, I know swimming takes up all the air in the room because of all the events. Carl Lewis, my Olympic GOAT.
Not so happy anniversary Andy Hawkins on this day 35 years ago. The Yankee right-hander no-hit the White Sox at Comiskey Park. But due to a series of errors, Hawkins lost the game 4-0. The game was scoreless in the bottom of the 8th when Sammy Sosa hit a grounder that Mark Blowers did not field cleanly, and Sosa beat the throw to first on the error. After 2 walks, Hawkins got Robin Ventura to line to left, but Jim Leyritz missed the catch and 3 runs scored. Jesse Barfield then misplayed another fly in the sun, and Ventura scored from second. Hawkins retired Dan Pasqua on a pop-up for out number 3, keeping his no-hitter, but he lost the game.
People will hear Sammy Sosa in that sentence and say, what? Sammy Sosa, yes, He was on the White Sox. He was the Southsider for a couple of seasons before going on 8 miles north to a lot more fame.
Happy trails to a 3-run home run for Max Kepler. With 2 on and 2 out in the 3rd last night, the first-year Philly sent what seemed to be a sure home run ball sailing towards center. Padres center fielder Jackson Merrill tracked it, leaped, and brought it back, while fully extended at the apex of his jump. Catch is terrific. especially considering Merrill only moved to the outfield last season after being a lifelong infielder. That said, it comes in the shadow of the catch Denzel Clark of the A's made 3 weeks ago when he literally climbed the fence.
In the NFL, it's toe taps along the sideline and in the end zone. And in Major League Baseball, it is going up over the fence to rob somebody. Spectacular play.
Quickly to the big finish. The Panthers
do it.
agreed to new deals with Brad Marchand and Aaron Ekblad. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, they're keeping the championship team together. Yes, it's a huge deal. The Dallas Stars hired Glenn Gulletson as head coach 12 years after firing him. Does that make any sense?
Second chance. You wait long enough, you get one. Al Hilal upset Man City in the Club World Cup. Is that significant?
Yes, there are teams and places in the world that are beating European elites now. And you go, wait a minute, when is this happening? Why is it happening? What does it mean? Zlatan called Lionel Messi's teammates statues who run as if they're carrying bags of cement. Your reaction?
Well, my first reaction is to laugh, and the second is to praise the Zlatan, who we both love. Last one, Skeens DeGrom and Yamamoto, all on the mound. Well, my first reaction is to laugh, and the second is to praise the Zlatan.
Go to the baseball, and it is a two-team race in the NL East. Phillies lead the Mets by 2 games after New York has lost 13 of their last 16 games. That was coming in to today's action. We pick it up with game 1 of a doubleheader with the Padres and Phillies top of the second. Padres lead 2-0. 2 bases loaded here for Manny Machado. This one's in the corner. It clears the bases. It's a double for Machado, so the Padres are up 5-0. Machado gets to 50 RBI on the season, and the Padres score 5 runs on 2 hits. And then in the 9th, look at this. Trey Turner hits a base hit to center. The Phillies are down 2, right? This is the last out. Brandon Marsh wants to get to third, but he gets tagged out by Machado, and the game's over. But is it? Because the Phillies would challenge, and if you take a look here, yeah, no, it looks like Machado goes right under Marsh's leg. He's in there. They overturn the call, so Marsh is safe at third. The game continues. There is some life yet for these Phillies, and the next batter is Kyle Schwarber. You want him in this position, especially when you consider he already has a home run today, except, well, no heroics. He strikes out, and the Padres. Before anybody sat down, the Brew Crew up 1-0. Top of the 6th. It's 2-1 Brewers trailing Bryce Terang at the dish. He goes oppo. That one's going to roll all the way into the corner. Just enough time for Christian Yelich to score all the way from first base. It's a double for Terang, and the Brewers tie this thing up at 2. Later in the inning, Joey Ortiz, bases loaded. Who gives the Beggs hugs? Grandma! It's a granny! First career grand slam, 2 for Ortiz. What a time to get it as the Brewers break this thing open. They're up 6-2 as we head into the top of the 8th, and it's Isaac Collins leading off. What do you need in just case scenarios? Insurance. And that's what he gives them. That's a home run. Brew Crew win this one 7-2. That means the Mets lose for the 14th time in their last 17 games. And as you command it, oh, sad grimace. You hate to see it. I feel like that grimace has been on Ozempic. And yet again, the Mets lose. In fact, for much more on this NL East race, we bring in our senior MLB insider, Jeff Passan. I just mentioned so many losses. They're just piling up right now for the Mets. Should we keep hope alive in Queens? Give them something, Jeff Passan.
On June 12th, the New York Mets were 45-24. If they lose the second game of their doubleheader today, they will be only 9.